Hello, everyone, and welcome to Talk of the Town. Thanks so much for tuning in tonight, and I hope you didn't melt away yesterday. I know I did. A good friend came over and brought me a air conditioner. I like not to have air conditioning. I like my windows open, but yesterday was brutal. I have a guest on tonight that I truly respect. One of the first town managers that's come along in a long time that really has his eye on the prize, and he continues to make Plymouth a better place. Please welcome Derek Brindisi.
Thank you, Karen. Good to be here. I'm happy to be back.
Yes.
We always have great conversations.
I was looking at Ken's Facebook page, and there you and I were way back when. I think you were assistant town manager, and you were on the you look like a baby.
I'm much older. It's been almost 10 years since I came as the assistant town manager
too,
back in 2015. Yeah.
No. I watched last night. I watch every Tuesday night and selectmen's meeting. And you had a wonderful presentation, year in review for Plymouth, and a lot happened. And one of the things that I liked, one of many, was the crime analysis, the accident analysis, and it was mapped out over our area. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure.
I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, before I talk about the police department's efforts, I'd just like to recognize the departments led by the department heads and administrators and the frontline staff. So everybody from the frontline staff to the department heads really are the ones that we should thank, because the report I was able to present last night really doesn't do justice of all the work that they accomplished this past year.
I know.
And so a lot of credit goes to those individuals who work every day, to make this community a better place to live, work, raise a family. It's a great place. And, I was with a friend the other day, and we were talking about how great a place Plymouth is. And, we all have plenty of time to complain about what's going on in life. But if you really stop and think about how great Plymouth is, and this is a conversation I was sharing with my friend, beautiful coastline, 300 ponds, hiking trails, great school public education system, great recreation programs, a downtown that's vibrant with retail shops and restaurants. I mean, we have so much going on in this community. And, being a guy from Central Mass and from Worcester, I can appreciate it, I think, more than most people can, because I didn't have all of this growing up as a kid. So I love Plymouth, and I just really hope that people who, have come here for whatever reason to raise a family, they really appreciate what they have, because it is a super great community, and we have employees that work hard every day to make it a great community.
I know the employees do, and you recognize them at every chance you get, and they are good. I've never had anything wrong happen. They're so willing to help. And Plymouth is a place, live, work, play, and you make sure of that. And people like David Gould and so many names maybe that I don't even know that really work every day to make Plymouth a family place. Things to do for the family. Look at Stevens Field.
It's beautiful.
Oh my!
Great job.
I go by it and I marvel at it. It's just open and beautiful, and their families are always there.
And we're working on so much more, and that was the genesis of last night's report. So last night, I presented a year in review. This is what we do in June of every year. So I started doing this when I came here in 2022. That summer, we set a number of goals and priorities with the select board.
I remember.
And then 12 months later, we said, listen, we're going to measure ourselves. We have to report back to the community on our success, or maybe not success. So last night's presentation was just our annual occurrence of talking about what worked, what didn't work, what we continue to work on in future years. And so you mentioned the police department's crime analysis unit, which that was really one of the big ones I wanted to highlight. I couldn't cover all of the accomplishments last night, but Chief Flynn has done an amazing job. He's been in place for a little less than 4 years now, and he's really transformed that police department. And I would say, when he retires someday, one of his hallmarks, people are going to remember him by, is the crime analysis unit. And so that, very simply put, is we went to town meeting and we sought funding for two components. One, we needed funding to hire a data analyst, somebody who is trained in looking at data and then making heads and tails of it and then reporting this information back to the chief and his command staff so that they can make decisions. So we got funding for a crime analyst. We hired this individual in December. We then went ahead and worked with our IT department and looked at various software products that we could take the existing crime data that we capture already, and we've been capturing for 100 years, but now we're using that data, not just storing it away. We're taking that data and we're looking at trends in the community. We're trying to identify hot spots in our community. And all that information, it informs the chief and his command staff to redeploy their police officers in certain areas of town where they see something happening. And so last night we just launched the program in December, and I can tell you, I have police officers who walk up to me and they talk about the crime analysis unit and how it has impacted them as police officers and helped them be better police officers. It's a great program.
Wow, now that's interesting to hear that. And that's new. I mean, I don't remember that ever before. We had our detectives.
That's right.
But now it's more honed in.
And this individual I keep referring to as the analyst, he's a civilian. He's not a police officer, but he's trained in looking at data and then taking that data to identify trends. And
to be informative. One thing, you said many things, and I pay attention, but one great thing you said last night, and it is absolutely true, and I want people to appreciate it. We are the most transparent government that I know of, and I've worked in the Boston area and through government and down here, and I hear of other areas and residents screaming, got relatives all over the place. This is the most transparent. My God, sometimes I think it's too transparent. It's like too many cooks are in.
Everything we possess, the public has access to. And I've been saying this for 3 years now. I remember having this conversation with town meeting members about transparency of government and not knowing. And I said to them, listen, every email that I own, I have to give it to you, right? Wow. Unless it's confidential information, say I have somebody's social security number. Yeah. But I have to give it to you. Every document, every payroll warrant that we have to give it to the public. And I think last night one of the items I used as an example was the senior tax work-off program. Mm-hmm. Now, we had a lot of fun with it, but it was a really good example of recognizing a complaint. We had seniors calling Town Hall a year and a half ago saying, I've been signing up for the senior tax workout program for the last 7 years, and I have never been chosen. Because we only can choose 30 individuals, and we have sometimes 60, 70 applications. And then, we had the same person saying, and I know my next door neighbor's been chosen 4 times in a row. What's going on? So we said, something, I can't answer those questions of the past, but what I can do is make sure that everybody in the community knows how we're going to select the applicants. So I worked with the Human Resources Department, and we found an app that we take everyone's name and we assign them a number, and then it's like a lottery. And so at the time, Dickie Quinto was the chair. He'd push the button, and you see the balls drop, and then a number would come up, and it would say, Jane Smith gets selected. And we selected all 30 people in a public forum at a select board meeting. So no one can ever criticize or accuse the town of favoritism, because we're like, no. And so forever, at least while I'm here, that's how we're going to select those individuals who will be part of the senior tax program. And so I think it worked out well. I know Dickie Quinto loved it. He had a lot of fun with it, because it was like being on a game show. the way we did it.
Right.
But it was done publicly. It was done by the local scene. They showed it on television. It was great. But it was just another way to say, listen, we are going to be as transparent as possible.
Now, there's another program for seniors. They bring in their information, and if they come under a certain criteria of not earning a lot of money, they get so much off on their taxes.
Yeah, we have a couple different programs for seniors. That's one of them.
But you have to pay that back if you sell the house.
Right.
Yeah.
But we also have another program that Betty Cavaco had started two years ago, I think it was, where when you receive your tax bill, you can make donations.
Oh, right.
To a fund for seniors.
Right.
And we use that money to help subsidize seniors who are low income.
How is that working out?
Well, I know we've collected a lot of money. I don't know the exact number, but Lynn Barrett, our finance director, said we've collected a lot of money in that program, more than we ever expected, and we keep we're using that money to help subsidize.
That's a wonderful program.
Doing a lot for seniors is really important.
Well, look at the Center for Active Living. It's just wonderful. You know, they're always up on things. Is it Ms. Brady that runs that?
Michelle Brady is now our Commissioner of Health and Human Services.
Yeah.
She was formerly the Director of the CAL. And if she was here right now, she would tell you that 40% of Plymouth's population is 55 and older.
I know.
And they're predicting that it is going to be 50% of the population will be 55 and older in less than 10 years. So we have a growing older population. We need to make sure that those individuals have a place to recreate, have a place to socialize. The last thing we want is, especially our senior population, for them to be homebound.
And didn't you start an Alzheimer?
Yeah, so it's the Towne, through the CAL, received what is known as age and dementia friendly status. And so what that means is that we have a program, we have a number of different strategies in which that we employ that focus on being an age-friendly community and a dementia-friendly community. A great example is this program. It's called the Purple Table. Oh. And what the CAL staff has done is those restaurants who want to participate, they train their staff on helping assist individuals who have dementia. So if I were to take, say, my grandmother to dinner, I would let the staff know that my grandmother has dementia. They put a little purple card on the table, so when the waitress comes over, they know they've been trained on how to talk to and interact with that person that has dementia. And so, as you know, somebody who's ridden with dementia, it's a very troubling disease. My grandmother, she just passed away this past December of dementia. She had it for almost 12 years, and it takes a lot to be able to interact with somebody who has that type of disease.
How wonderful. I got teary-eyed. My mother-in-law had dementia, and they don't know it until after the person dies. They can tell how long they've had it.
Oh, okay.
She had it since the age of 50, and we didn't know. But she would act out sometimes, and we were puzzled by certain things, but didn't ever put two and we're talking years ago, and just never put it together, and they found out after she died.
And there's more and more people that are being
diagnosed. And she was in her 80s
it.
When she died.
Right, and my grandmother was, I think, almost 90 when she just passed away in December, and she had lived with it for, like I said, almost 15 years. So it's something that we've seen more and more in the community. So being a dementia-friendly community, really focusing on people that are stricken with that disease, I think is just another reason to want to live here, raise your children here, and grow old here.
That really tugged on my heart. That I did not know, and I know a lot, but that I didn't know.
There's so much going on in this town, and like I said earlier, there's so much great projects that are taking place that you and I could honestly spend 6 hours talking about all the things that are happening in town.
Wow, I don't know how you do it. I know you have a great staff, but I mean, it's you.
Well, again, I lean very heavily on our department heads, our division heads. I can't say enough about them. I worked, as I worked for the city of Worcester for 15 years. The city of Worcester is the second largest city in New England. It's got 200,000 people that live there. It's got a $1 billion operating budget. We have a $300 million operating budget. So bottom line, it's 3 times the size as Plymouth. But I can tell you one thing, I would put any one of our administrators against any one of the city of Worcester's administrators.
That's wonderful.
That's the skill level that we have in this town that works every day. It is 7:15 right now, and I can guarantee if I went to town hall, we probably have 3 or 4 department heads that are still in town hall working right now.
I've seen them in the past.
Yeah.
I haven't been there at night in a long time, but I've seen them.
Yeah, you notice it more in the winter when the sun drops around 4:30, and then you drive by town hall around 8 o'clock and you see the lights on. People are in there working.
Yeah.
And they're not getting paid to work. I mean, these are our administrators that the volume of work is so large, like they stay there because they're committed to getting it done.
Right. How is David doing with? Went right out of my head.
David Gould?
Yes.
David's got a bunch of projects going on, so you should bring David on for a show. He's got so many projects going on.
I can't get a hold of him.
He's got the Jenny Pond dredging project, which we broke ground last fall.
Right.
So we've completed the dredging. We've installed the new footbridge. I don't know if you had a chance to see it.
Not
it's
yet.
Amazing. The footbridge. There were some folks that were upset that the footbridge was taken away, the old one, and then they saw the new one, and they're like, "Wow, this is like it's unbelievable!" Like
it's
the
my
stonework.
son's favorite place. He's 52 years old. He loves it.
It's
but
great.
I mean, he grew up here. He just.
That's a $17 million project, and we know how great David is around getting grants. He was able to land a $10 million grant from the federal government. So to the taxpayer, this project, when it's all said and done, will be about $7 million because we're getting $10 million from the federal government. But that project is starting at Jenny Pond, and it's going to work. It's all the way down to Brewster Garden. They're going to create a fishway. So as you know, when the fish migrate, they go up through the fish ladder.
Yeah.
Once this project is complete, they're actually creating a bypass so fish can actually swim up to the pond. Yep.
That's going to be amazing.
And that's a project that is currently under construction. He has 2 other projects that are under design. We're hoping that the Downtown Resiliency Project, which is the newest project, we're hoping to get funded this fall and break ground in December.
You said 30-odd trees are going to be?
75 trees.
75 trees.
Are going to be planted from Court Street to Main. We're widening the sidewalks in some areas. We're creating bump outs for pedestrian safety.
Yep, and traffic mitigation.
Exactly, traffic mitigation, pedestrian safety. Rain gardens would be installed. Brick pervious pavers will be installed in certain areas, like say in front of Memorial Hall. So that's a multi-million-dollar project, but again, how great David is on getting grants. They've applied for a $3 million grant from the state that we're pretty confident we're going to receive. So that project, it's going to take 2 seasons to complete, but it's going to change the face of Court Street and Main Street.
Can I ask what kind of trees? Are they flowering or?
I'm not sure. I did ask the tree. I guess I didn't ask what type of tree. What I did say is let's be mindful of the trees that we choose. Because if you look at a lot of the older communities that planted trees 75, 80 years ago, and you see what the root structures have done to the sidewalks, a lot of these trees are now being taken down because they can't repair the sidewalks. So we want to be mindful that we choose trees that are appropriate for the space that they're going to be in. And so we'll work with our tree warden to choose those trees.
I'm sure you've been to Rockport.
Yes.
And Rockport has downtown the most gorgeous tulip tree. And they actually look like tulips on the tree. And the sidewalk is fine, but it's a huge tree. And I asked a proprietor there once, what kind of tree is that? She said it was a tulip tree. Just beautiful. Pink, red.
Really, that's great.
Flowers on it.
It'd be great to see those types of trees downtown with those flowers.
Oh, jeez. And the sidewalk was perfect. And it was an old tree.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I love flowering trees. It just boisters your it gives you such a great feeling when they come out, you know.
And they go beyond aesthetics. You know, this project that I just referenced is really to focus on mitigating this, what they call as a heat island effect.
Right, shade.
We've done some heat mapping on downtown, and the temperature downtown is usually about 10 degrees higher than, say, you know, more
my
inland.
house, yeah.
Right, more inland. And we've seen the heat maps, and so the trees, to your point, will create that shade effect, will actually lower the temperatures downtown.
So where are the trees going? Tell me again.
They'll start at Memorial Hall.
Memorial Hall.
And they'll go all the way up to
Water?
Leiden Street.
Oh, Leiden.
Yeah, all
okay.
the way up there. Yeah, up to Leiden.
Okay.
It's going to be a great project. Again, it's going to change the face of downtown for the next 20 years.
Is it on both sides? Or
Yes,
on both sides?
Bump outs. And there's something else we're trying to figure out a way to do it, but we're trying to build in what we came up with, this idea called drop-off zones, right?
Oh.
So think about it. We get a lot of complaints that there's no parking downtown.
Yeah.
That's actually not true. There's actually a lot of parking downtown, but
Yeah,
maybe
they
some of the
don't know
parking
where.
is a little bit too far away.
Yeah.
So we want to create these drop-off zones that we'd have a bench, and you know, certainly a tree would be there, where you could bring someone who's struggling with with mobility,
or something.
a walker. So you pull up, right?
Yeah.
You drop them off, and then you maybe drive up to Town Hall,
Sure.
park the vehicle, and you walk back down to Court Street, and then you meet them. And then this way they're only walking, say, 15, 20 feet versus all the way back to Town Hall to get to their restaurant. So it's a new concept we came up with. And how I came up with it, because I was looking at loading zones. We create these loading zones for truck deliveries for restaurants.
Sure.
And I'm thinking, why don't we have drop-off zones for people? Right? And so that's
are amazing.
That's how I thought about it.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's amazing.
So we're trying to incorporate that idea into downtown.
Wow. I love it. I truly love it. Now, you even forecast our finances, which is a tricky,
It's a tough one.
Housing is down. I really wish the Fed would lower the rate. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, we could see it'd be great to see some relief on the interest rates for housing, but the median price in town is well over $500,000, and it's living in this town, as far as being a new buyer, is becoming really challenging for individuals who are just getting out of college and wanting to buy a starter home. But we're looking at our finances on the town side. Lynn Barrett, our finance director, had previously worked with one of our former select board members on developing a tool to forecast our finances, and so it's kind of a rudimentary tool that they use. Lynn has done a lot of work over this past 12 months on developing a more contemporary tool that we can use to try to predict our revenues and then what our expenses are going to be, because we can't live in a world year after year. We don't manage our expenses that way. We're thinking, okay, this is what I have for income, and this is what my expenses are going to be for the next couple of years. So I have to be smart about that. So we want to do that on the town side. Lynn is going to come before the select board, we're thinking late August, to present this new 5-year financial forecasting tool.
Wow, that's amazing. When does the warrant close? August?
I believe it's August 8th or 10th.
That early?
It's really early. It's only open for about 12 days.
I know.
It's very
It's
short
the shortest
window.
one.
It is very short, because it is the October town meeting. So most of our business gets done in April. But since you brought that up, if you don't mind, I I don't know if you saw my presentation last night about this upcoming year's 2 town meetings. So nothing's going to change at the fall town meeting. We'll still open the warrant, close the warrant, like we typically do. Have our town meeting the third Saturday in October. But what I proposed to the board last night.
No, you didn't. Did I shut it off too quick?
You may have.
Yeah.
No special town meeting warrant in April. So as you know, town meeting member.
Yeah.
Forever. we've had 2 books in the April town meeting. We've
Right.
had the annual town meeting warrant and the special town meeting warrant.
Yeah, pain.
It is. And the thing is, we look back at a number of special town meeting warrants, and the vast majority of the articles that we were discussing were articles that were submitted by departments. So we just got to do a little bit of behavior modification and say to the departments, there's not going to be a special town meeting warrant. So if you want an article, you have to get it into the annual. The annual warrant will close December 18th this year.
Okay.
So they'll have plenty. They know
Plenty
now.
of time.
They were told last night, and let's see, today is the 25th. So everybody was put on notice on June 24th that the warrant will close on December 18th.
Wow.
So if you can't get your articles prepared by then, I can't do anything else for you. But what that will do for us, it'll give the select board and the finance committee a little bit more time to review the annual articles, put a little more energy into that, and then we only have to do that one review and then execute that one warrant when it's complete. Where in the old days, we're doing the annual review,
close your books,
we do the process all over again. It's silly.
Not only that, the printing, the books.
Yeah, we talked. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it costs a lot of money.
Right. You're absolutely right. We got to print
and time
2 books.
For your
staff. We expect that as far as at least staff time, we'll cut that process down by 50%.
Oh, well worth it.
Yeah, but it's little things, and I since I've been here and came back in 22, what I've said to people is a lot of the things that we do is self-inflicted. Nobody's
repeat.
Yeah.
Why?
Rinse and repeat.
Why?
You just keep doing it over and over.
Yeah.
And it's all self-inflicted. It's like, let's take a step back and say, why are we doing it like this? Yeah, and I presented last night also another goal of the board is to look at all of the select board policies and bylaws. And this past year, so we rescinded policies a few months ago that go back to the 1970s.
I remember.
You know, and I'm thinking, well, this is crazy. We are enforcing policies that are 60 years old.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
Makes no sense today.
Right. Exactly. It doesn't. So we're spending a lot of time making government more efficient. Because if we make it more efficient, then that means the time that we save, we can do more. We can do other work that's more valuable to this community.
Right. What about zoning changes?
So we had the one zoning change this past April, and that was we changed the zoning up in the industrial park to allow for a light industrial. As far as I don't predict any zoning changes coming forward in this October. But one thing we do want to do, and as you know, I sit on the Regional Economic Development Foundation.
Great board.
And they do a lot of great work.
Yeah.
One thing we've been talking to them about as a board is, should the town partner with the foundation, and before we make any more zoning changes, let's do an analysis. Because you often hear, well, we should go up to 60-story heights or 70 feet heights. And I say, well, why? Is there someone calling us up that's saying, if you only had 70-foot structures, allowed 70-foot structures in town, I'd be here? And the answer is no.
There was a time where there was. Doctors building off of Oberry Street wanted it higher. But that was shot down. And they built the building anyway with less floors, and it's fine.
Well, and the ZBA can always grant a variance. But so it's getting back to your question around zoning, I think we should do a complete analysis of all of our zones and then pick our spots as to where we should make the changes before just jumping right into something and then thinking it's going to work and finding out years later it had no effect.
No, you have to look at it and study it and talk about it and then do it.
Exactly.
I understand we won a lawsuit.
Yes.
And we knew we were going to win. Well, I'll speak for myself.
Okay.
I knew you were going to win. I knew the town was going to win because it was really ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think we could talk about it a little bit now because I know I saw it was on social media today. Meg Sheehan continues to file these frivolous lawsuits against the Economic Development Foundation, frivolous lawsuits against the town. We combust hundreds of thousands of dollars to defend Meg Sheehan's frivolous lawsuits. And you know something? Anyone can file a lawsuit. All you need is $300 and a crayon. You can fill out the paperwork and file a lawsuit.
Wow.
And that's what Meg Sheehan does. You know, she continues to, to attack the town on many different fronts. And so it was great today that the judge ruled in favor of the town, ruled in favor of the foundation. And I believe I saw the words in large print, dismissed.
Dismissed.
That's right.
3 times.
That's right. So again, it's difficult for us because
it costs money.
It costs
Derek.
money, and we're always on the defense. And then if the only person that is screaming the loudest is Meg Sheehan and her Land and Water Coalition, then people start to believe what she's saying is true. And now, hopefully, folks will realize that a lot of the things that she's accusing the town of, she's wrong.
I felt bad about that. Those people that came before you really believed her.
That's right.
Really, you could tell they did. And my heart went out to them because I knew that what was going to happen. Why doesn't somebody, and I'm not talking about the town, somebody sue her back?
Right.
A developer or somebody.
Well, it's interesting because I got a phone call today regarding 10 Collins Ave. And what I found out today is Jerry Sheehan, which is Meg Sheehan's dad, was the owner of 10 Collins Ave, which now Meg is complaining, filing lawsuits against the developer. So her father sold that property, which Meg now claims is what does she call it, a sand mining pit. It was her father's property that sold to a developer. Yeah, but she won't tell you that part of the story. That her father bought it for $2.3 million and sold it to a developer, Scott Spencer, for $3.8 million.
I wonder even if she's talking to her family. I understand the family's at odds anyway. Yeah. I mean, it's El Knife.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it's ridiculous. I'm really sick of that woman. Don't even answer. I just can't stand it. But I was very happy, and I knew it was going to happen, and people just should not believe her.
Right.
It's just let's talk about Memorial Hall.
Yes, let's talk about it. Big number. It's a big number.
It's a big number, but how many times did, not you, was it ignored?
Well, I would say that the last time there was any serious investment in that building was around 2005.
Wasn't that Vinny DiMacedo got a grant?
Possibly.
To fix certain things, but it wasn't
it wasn't a complete overhaul.
No.
There was some improvements made.
Improvements, and I think Vinny got that money from the state. He was very proud of that.
I remember David Malaguli telling me how there was an investment made in 2005, and that was part of the presentation last night. But also part of the presentation last night was in 2011, there was a study conducted around water intrusion. What they found was that water was penetrating the building through the brick.
Through the brick. Now, that doesn't say much for the brick. The brick is how old?
Right. Well, that building's going to be 100 years old this year.
Yeah.
So the brick had to be repointed back in 2011, and it was neglected. I don't know why it was neglected.
Oh, they kicked the can.
Well, I mean, but you look at a lot of the things that were built from 2011 to, we'll say, 2021, and some things probably were maybe shouldn't have been a priority. For example, Town Hall. Should we have used those meals tax money and put it towards Memorial Hall versus building a new Town Hall?
You sound like Dickie and my husband.
We had a Town Hall that was extremely functional at 11 Lincoln Street.
Wow,
I know that because I worked there when I was the assistant town manager.
I miss that place, but I mean, I teethed there. I got my wings there.
That's right. But here we are now. Memorial Hall has been neglected for 20 years, and as you know, the longer we wait, the more money it's going to cost. So,
it'll fall in on itself.
That's right. We have a wall inside of Memorial Hall that we're actually working with a contractor to remove because it's so spongy from all the water intrusion that it's going to fall down on its own.
Is Memorial Hall considered historic? Bill said something about that.
It is
the
historic.
Windows.
Yep.
other things in there?
It is historic. The windows are historic. The building itself is historic. I mean, it was built, as you know, for to honor World War I veterans. And so, and then this isn't the only Memorial Hall building in Massachusetts. There were a lot of memorial halls that were built throughout Massachusetts during that era, again, to honor the war veterans. And if you go into the hall itself, the Hall of Veterans, we just spent $30,000 on making improvements there. It looks very nice. It's clean. It's been upgraded. But there's so much water damage in that building. We have to do something at some point.
I went in for the recount and froze. We were freezing, and we were wearing winter coats.
Yeah.
Or spring, whatever it was. It was cold, and it was like a barn. And we couldn't take it. I couldn't take it, the cold.
The whole HVAC system is broken. If you were to walk on some of the upper walking areas and the upper seating area, you'll see we have beautiful hardwoods that have been damaged beyond repair because of the condensation from the HVAC system has been dripping on it for years and years. And so, hardwoods can only take so much moisture, and so they've been ruined because of the HVAC. So we got to repair the water intrusion. We have to replace the HVAC system. We have to make upgrades to the lighting system. The lights, probably some of the original lights from 100 years ago that is still there.
I believe that.
There's a lot of things that we have to do. But at the end of the day, Memorial Hall should be the gem of downtown. And I think it has potential to be the gem.
It could bring in a lot of money.
We had 100, we're projected to have 120 events this year coming up.
I was surprised a few years back noticing more and more events happening at Memorial Hall, and I was very pleased about that. And the crowds that go in there, there's lines.
Oh, yeah. Joel Goldberg is the director of the Memorial Hall. He's done an amazing job. When he took it over 5 years ago, I think they had 40 events that year. 5 years later, they have 120 events. And so we know that if we, as a community, make the investment to repair Memorial Hall, that those 120 events will go to 150 to 180 events. It's only going to grow. It's only going to grow.
Well, you said that you wanted to give back the taxpayers some of their money. You did that with Stevens Field and, other venues. Memorial Hall is a great example of giving back taxpayers their money because families go, everybody goes for different, they even have wrestling there.
Well, that's a great point, Karen, because it is a public asset, right? So, and even if you attend one of these events, it's very affordable, right? And so it's
it's not expensive.
Right, it's not like driving into Boston and going to a show there. It's very affordable, so to your point, you can take your children to the Christmas show that the Philharmonic...
I have been.
The Philharmonic puts on in December, and all the other family shows, and they have comedy shows on the weekends. I've been to those. It is, like you said, Stevens Field is an asset to this community. Memorial Hall is an asset to this community. We just have to say, okay, do we want to invest in this asset? Because the community does truly benefit from it being there. Yeah.
Well, sitting on the CPC, I don't know how many times certain entities come back to us for monies. And I'm not talking about a person like David Gould because he also gives back to the community with all his projects.
With all his grants, too.
Yeah, all his grants. There's a guy that, he's worth every dime.
David's the type of guy who'll go to CPC. If you give me $500,000, I'll turn it into $3 million.
Yes,
right? And he does.
And he does.
Yep.
And we're very proud of him. So we're going to have to think on this and do the right thing because I would hate to see that Memorial Hall perish. And it will.
It will. It will. We can't afford to neglect it for another 20 years.
It's like the museum, Pilgrim Museum.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't want to see that go by the boards either. They had leaks in there.
Right, right.
And they let that go for quite a while. So
And CPC's done a great job over the many years supporting and investing in our local nonprofits. Pilgrim Hall Museum is a great example, $3 million to help them repair their roof. $3 million to build a homeless shelter in the industrial park. $4 million to build 63 affordable housing units down in 80 Makepeace. Those three projects alone. Spire Center is another great project.
Yeah.
I mean, it came out amazing.
The Arts Center all the time,
on North Street.
But it gives back to the community.
Right. They all do. But even the projects we just named off the top of our heads, that's $12 million worth of projects. So yeah, Memorial Hall, we're asking for $22 million of CPC funds to bring it back. Maybe there is something that we could, get maybe $15 million from CPC and go to town meeting and ask for another $7 million.
Where it's historical, can't you get historical monies?
Yeah, yeah, and we're already working on grant applications to the Mass Historic Commission.
Yeah.
I was chatting with Everett Malaguti last night, and he had his calculator out. He already calculated $700,000 worth of grants that we can go after. So we'll do as much as we can.
Yeah.
But we do know that ultimately, if we're going to make a commitment to bring this building back, then it's going to have to be funded either through CPC or through some type of tax levy.
What about visitor service? Anything there?
Yeah, and that's part of the back of the napkin math that Everett was doing.
Back of the napkin, yeah.
He was using VSB.
Stevie.
Yep.
He's so eager all the time to help.
Steve's great. I tell him he's got the best job in town. He's the chairman of a committee that gives out money. Mm-hmm. That's the best job. It's like being Santa Claus.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not stingy either.
Right. No, that's a great committee.
Yeah.
Great committee. But CPC is the same way too. You guys give out money too, so that's a good committee to be on.
Yeah, I enjoy it. When I went up to be appointed, I didn't know if I was going to get appointed.
No, you have to be there. We need people like you, Karen, on that committee.
Oh, thank you, but I wasn't so sure because I rag on certain people on that committee, and I was very pleased, that they put that aside.
Well, and we have two new board members, have a new chairman, so I think there's a lot of folks that kind of sitting back to say, okay, what's the direction this new board is going to take us, and I would say, I'm in that group of thinking because we haven't with this board, we haven't had the chance to go through our goal setting process, which we'll do over the course of the summer. So we'll have a better sense, and I say, myself and the various administrators will have a sense in August of which direction the board wants to take us in.
I hope that they, oh my God, did you see that time?
It's going by fast.
Holy mackerel.
It always does. I said we could talk 6 hours about
I thought it was like 20 past 7. What was I going to say? Are they economically inclined?
The select board?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that they are saying it in different ways that the town needs economic development, but we're all saying that it's got to be the right type of economic development.
What does that mean?
So for me, what that means, and others have said it, and so I agree with them when they say it, is that before we start focusing on clear-cutting 25 acres of land.
Oh, we don't want that.
And to bring economic development, there's a lot of areas of town that we should be looking to repurpose. Maybe they're being underutilized, and we could use that space for a different purpose.
Sometimes, though, you have to take down a few trees to bring in something really good, maybe something that doesn't have a lot of traffic, something that'll bring in great tax money. You don't mind taking trees down then.
Right.
I mean, we do have a lot of trees, but
but we have underutilized space on Camelot Drive that we could use. We don't have a large vacancy factor with our retail and restaurants downtown.
No.
I mean, there's some that are vacant right now, but there's strategic vacancies, meaning the property owner is working on big projects and is waiting to unveil them. But there's a lot that is going on as far as economic development. There's going to be a new hotel. I think there's about 40 units being built by Meg Ryko on Chilton Street. So that I think will open up next summer, certainly not this summer. So that's going to be a major boost to the downtown area.
There's a proposal of another one.
John, another hotel? Okay. I don't think I've heard that one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We could use a flagship hotel downtown.
Yeah.
The issue is like where are you going to put it, you know? And
right.
There are some. I would say this, without saying too much. There are some underutilized lots downtown that, for many decades, you know, could have been used for multi-million-dollar investments.
Right.
And so that's some of the things that we've talked about. Like, look at these lots downtown, and you know, how can we work
Water
with
Street.
Water Street is a great example. Yep, it's a great example of underutilized lots.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, I always wonder, are they going to ever take down those buildings on Water Street? You know, all those gray buildings that are on the water? Doctors are in there, whatever. They're low, they're...
on Water Street?
Yeah, further down.
Are they right on the water?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I don't know what's going on in some of those buildings over there.
Oh, it's just, it's
but there's
tacky.
Like this waterfront parking that it's like, why? We have $1 million ocean views that we have parking lots on. Like you would never see that in another community.
And then at the same time, we don't want to see a 40-story building either.
No, right. But, you know, could you put a hotel there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
a
flagship hotel.
What about Bert's? What is going on?
So, you know, I can only tell you the rumors I've heard. So we engage with the owners of Bert's on multiple levels. We even at one point said that we asked the owner if they'd be willing to sell it to the town, much like the full sale.
We did too. CPC years ago
and
we asked.
And they said, no, we're not interested. But I did hear a couple of weeks ago that there is a local investor in town that's working with the property owner to purchase the building. Ultimately, they may tear the building down and put something new there. So I'm hoping in the next 6 months we'll gain some traction over there on Bert's. But
I saw a rendition of something that was going to go up there and it looked like Noah's Ark.
Yeah.
It was awful.
The existing property owner wanted to build that. You're right. It looked
out of place.
It looked like the Titanic. The way it was designed, it looked odd, out of shape. And you know, if you ask, you know, some people like David Gould, he'd say, because he knows that waterfront extremely well, and he would say that building is way too big for that footprint. And so then they came to the town. They wanted to negotiate the town-owned parking lot, you know, adjacent to it, and the town wasn't going to give up more parking space. I mean, especially in the summer. I mean, we want that parking for our residents to go to the beach.
Right.
You know, so those are I think some of the challenges that we're facing with Bert's. But you know, on the glass being half full, town purchased the full sale. The building is now down over on Taylor Ave.
Wonderful! I go by it.
Oh yeah, I mean we should have done this back in 2016 after the fire, which was a recommendation of mine. But
of course,
I was told not to do it.
Yeah.
So here we are, 7 years later, and the building is down. And then David Gould, back to David. He's working on design plans to...
It looks beautiful. On paper, it looks beautiful.
Yeah, let's do some plantings, some nice plantings, you know, maybe a picnic table. But I think what's going to be most important is we'll have a gangway that's ADA accessible. So people who have wheelchair or mobility issues, they'll be able to access the beach from the full sail.
It's just lovely. Even seeing it empty right now is just so... I like to go by open space. There's a place in North Plymouth, which you see, I'm sure you go by. It's an open field, you know, and
homes.
I love
it.
And you can't help but look toward it. It just lets you breathe.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and you're right. So I've gone down there a couple of times, and I'm like, wow, it's changed the entire vista of that area of Taylor Ave. Really
and it looks better. I say, don't get mad at me, that White Horse Beach is a prettier beach than Long Beach. Now, I'm not talking about the end of Long Beach.
Okay, you're talking about the Plymouth Beach section. Yeah,
but I think White Horse Beach is the most beautiful beach.
So where I hang out at White Horse Beach, everybody's going to know now where I hang out, is at the far end of Taylor Ave over at Manamont Point Road.
Oh, yeah.
The boat, the town
Yep.
boat ramp over there.
I know where that is.
Because when it's low tide, that sand is pure.
You cannot beat it. I
Yeah.
love it at low tide.
Yep, it's great. Yep.
Just beautiful.
And that's the thing, you know what? White Horse Beach is a beautiful beach. Long Beach out on the Point is an amazing beach. Yeah, you know, over by Browns
But we
Bank.
can't get out there, you
It's
know.
tough. I know. It's really hard to get out there. And that's the thing. It's like, I was talking about that beach, and really the only way to get out there these days is if you have a boat.
I was going to ask you, you think David's going to have someday have that shuttle?
I don't think so. So David did the analysis. It cost the town about $70,000 to do the analysis. And I'm just vaguely remembering it, but it basically amounted to if they were going to build a dock.
Little dock.
Inside the harbor, which was where the old Skaggs property used to be, they said it would cost the town, I think, about $2 million, $2.5 million. And because of the way the tide is, you'd only be able to use it like 4 hours a day.
Oh, for God's sakes.
And it would, and I thought he said the dock would have to be like 1,000 feet out. It'd stick way out there because of it didn't work. And even David, who was a big proponent of access to our natural resources, he said it's just not.
That's 4 hours. No,
yeah, right.
And reaching out that far, no.
It didn't. Yeah, it didn't work well. David and I and John Mahoney, we went out to Long Beach. That was about 2 summers ago now. We looked at it. We looked at the drawings that were drawn up, and everyone collectively said this doesn't make sense to come back to town meeting.
No, that's just too bad.
But that would have been an area where you could dock your boat and then just hang on a Long Beach for a few hours.
It's beautiful white sand, deep white sand, just beautiful.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, a few years ago, we went out there. And there were houses way at the end, very, very end. Looked like an apartment thing. I was surprised. But maybe I'm not explaining it right. It wasn't a cottage.
Down at the end of Long Beach?
Yeah,
okay.
Very end.
I honestly, I've only been out there a few times on a boat, a couple times, so I don't really have an...
Are they still doing the lottery for the beach to go out there and camp?
I don't know. I think they do that. I think it's towards the end of August. They'll do that for a few nights. Yeah.
Right.
But talk about if you have the opportunity to camp out there, wow.
I know people who have won the lottery, and it's just magic.
Oh, yeah. I can't imagine being out there for the night. Yeah.
They bring a tent, and, they can have... At the time, they could have a little fire and do hot dogs and whatever.
Right. Yeah, no, that would be great to be out there and do that.
So what else, sir? What are we doing?
Well, so we're headed to our summer months. This is when we close out the books for our finances.
Yeah.
I don't know what free cash is going to bring, but I'm sure we'll all be waiting around for a free cash certification.
Yeah.
So that we close the books on June 30th, and we're in the process that I said this to the board that I don't know another community that is more engaged. I don't know another town employees that are more engaged with this community than the town of Plymouth. And I just threw out some data points last night between the master planning process, the Holtec planning process, the Hedges Field and Forges Field planning process, open space planning process, and the list goes on, downtown residency. We have over 7,000 survey responses. We have had public forums, upwards of a dozen public forums.
He's done a great job.
So when I say this because, when some people say, like, geez, town hall is so disconnected from the community, I would argue against that. We are probably the most connected town hall in Massachusetts with all the work that we're doing. And, whether it's like thinking about a whole tech planning process, engaging the residents, asking them, what do you want us to see with the whole 1,500 acres? What should we preserve for open space? What should we preserve for light industrial development or residential development? All that information is driving our decision making. So we are very engaged with the community as much as we can be. And we have another one that's going to start very soon too.
What?
The community health assessment. So under the leadership of Commissioner Brady, we are starting, for the first ever in the town's history, conducting a community health assessment. And then what that brings is a community health improvement plan. So we're going to identify some of the most pressing public health issues in this community.
In the area.
Yes, and then we're going to develop a
So
strategic
you'll be
plan.
working with the hospital.
We hope so. The hospitals,
Oh,
we want them to
I
be.
love that
It's going to
idea.
be. We did it in Worcester back in 2012. So this will be the first time Plymouth has ever undergone through this assessment. So my point is, we're doing the past 18, 24 months.
You
we've done
are
a lot of
really
planning.
servicing the people of Plymouth. You really are. And, you know, as a town meeting member years ago, when when somebody would come up to me and say, I don't know this or I don't know, well, half of that responsibility is yours too.
That's right. That's right.
To find out. So, but listen, we were only supposed to be here a half hour. But don't we know better?
Yeah, well, I said we could talk for 6 hours. We could keep going. Next time I'll bring a bottle of wine and we'll talk for a couple hours.
You're on. Wouldn't that be fun?
Okay.
Oh,
you
my
name it, I'll do it.
Oh my God, I love it. And I love this. Can I keep this?
Sure.
You have some notes.
Those are my notes.
Do you want this?
No.
I can't even read them.
That's okay. They're from Mr. Quinto, so I already took care of it.
No, are you sure?
Yeah, no, don't worry about it.
All right.
It's all yours.
Listen,
Thank you,
I
Karen.
love having you on.
I love
It's
being here.
like unbelievable. So listen, everybody, thank you. I will be back July 16th with David Golden, Selectman David Golden. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.